because God is the originator of what? Marriage. You know, the marriage institution. Saying that a man will leave the father, leave the mother, and cleave to the wife. Where the wife is coming from, the man does not know. But the Bible says, he that findeth a wife finds a good thing. So marriage is actually the coming together of two mature adults to live together as one for life, to do them part, irrespective of their tribe, when it is guided by love. Some people go as far as not considering the religion. No, I've seen people that are Christians getting married to Muslims from two different religions. So the bottom line is that these people, they have agreed to stay together as man and what? Wife. And they become married. So that is what I feel I understand by the term marriage.
Okay, now let's come to the topic of discussion proper. Yeah. Yes, if a man now finds himself and woman find herself in this situation where they have a cross-tribal and different languages coming together as husband and wife, which of the languages do you think is best and first for the children to learn that will come out from this marriage?
Okay. Well, the bottom line now, we are talking about the language. And when you look at language, language is actually the system of communication. It's a complex system of communication in terms of your ideas, passing out information, and language comes in different kind of dimension. There is what we call the spoken language. There's what we call the written language. There's what we call the sign language and the body language. It depends on what we are really going to focus on. Now we are really talking about the language, the child.
Let's start with the spoken language first of all.
Okay, the spoken language. When we talk about the spoken language, that is the language the child will be exposed to first. There's a difference between first language and tribal language. Not every first language may be the tribal language of a child, because there are a lot of factors that will affect the formation of a language of a child. Number one, the family that child is born into. Now we talk about the diversity of the parents. Maybe the father is an Edoma, and maybe the mother is an Igbo speaking language. That is already diversity in tribal language. Now this child is now born into that home. The child's first language may not necessarily be the tribal language, either from the father or from the mother. But the child's tribal language will be the first language the child is exposed to in terms of what? Sound, in terms of the words, and in terms of the phrase that may lead to the formation of synthesis in communication, in passing information. And research have shown that the formation of every child, the first 12 to 18 months, every child's language is formed by the sound they hear from their caregivers. And these caregivers, the closest person to them may be their mother. That's why the first pronunciation by babbling, they come with the word mama before they begin to say dada or daddy. So the first person that is close to them, they adopt that sound. They try to imitate the sound. So if the sound is English language, that child's first language becomes English language, because the sound she's hearing, maybe mommy, that is the language that child will have.
Could that be as a result of the closeness right from the womb?
Yeah.
That is why, like what you said now, that the first thing or the first language the child will normally speak might be, oh, mommy, yes. Or was it because maybe from closeness from the womb?
Yeah, it's not just necessary. You can also say closeness from the womb, because even from womb, the child, they hear sound. Just like, I don't want to be too religious, when the angel visited Mary, Mary said the salutation of Elizabeth caused the child in the womb to leap for joy. That means the children or the child in the womb also hear sound. And this sound are sound of languages. They are sons of language. So if the child must adopt a first language, the family plays a role. And this family constitute brothers, sisters, maybe siblings, and relations in that family. So they begin to watch and begin to imitate the conversational pattern of that family. And you children are good at imitating. They first of all begin to imitate the sound. Then before you know, they go into interacting with people in their environment with that same sound they have adopted or they have embraced or they are exposed to. So if, for example, the major sound they hear there is English language or English sound, you see everybody in that home is speaking English. That child have no choice. That can begin to speak what? English language sound, which of course is one of the things that is influencing tribal sound going into what? Extinction. But if the child is brought up in a village setting where the tribal sound or the tribal language is predominantly the language of those people, if the child hears a mother say iye, the child will grow with that language iye, which is maybe the language of an Edo sound. That language becomes the first language of that child, even if the child is not even born as a Bini blood or from a Bini speaking language. As far that is the tribal sound, or that is the language that is predominant in that environment. Okay,
what you are trying to tell us now is the empirical circumstances go a long way to influence the language
so
the child will learn first.
That we learn first. So we look at the first language before we begin to dive into the tribal language. Because tribal language is like the language of a certain ethnic group that is influenced by their ethical heritage, their culture, which they want to preserve. They want everybody to learn. It is a deliberate act. They want them to learn for the purpose of preserving their culture, for identity, for ethical identity. So that child is bound. So the parents may take it as a deliberate, that is they are intentional about teaching that child this language. This is our tribal language. You must learn it.
Okay, now let's go to this segment of this discourse. You are a parent, and some of us fall victim of what I'm just saying. I won't say it's a victim, but it's out of love that we get married to somebody from a different tribe and different language background from our own. So, if as a father, which one will you prefer your child to adopt first as a language? Let us leave the empirical evidence outside. Which of these languages will you prefer? Is it from the mother or from the father?
Well, the first language I would want my child to adopt, not looking at my own language or my wife's language, is the interest of the family. What is the best language of communication with the family? If the language that is best for us in communicating to the children, to ourselves, is English, that becomes the language of that child. No, if you look at even the modern day home, you discover that even at age 12 months or 18, most of our children are already sent to school. Whereas those days, children will only be asked to go to school at the age of 6, thereby giving them the opportunity to stay with their parents. And this gives them room to be exposed to their tribal language. But today, a child that has been sent to school, maybe KG school or Montessori school.
Even some of them are even after 2-3 months, they are taken to, is it caregivers or whatever?
And they are already giving the sound of A for apple. That is not the tribal language. There's already English language. So, and everyone of us want to adopt that modern way. So, early child education, sending children to school, has a way of also influencing their language. B for ball. These are English language. This is not our language. C for car. This is not our language. And most of these caregivers, they are not our tribal persons. So maybe people that are not even ethnically connected to us, and our children are under their care. So they will speak the language that child needs for that training.
And that is the English.
The language of the child.
And that is English.
English. And this has played a major role in bringing our own tribal language with time, the tribal language will be going into what extinction, whether we like it or not. Because these caregivers, they have great influence because our children, they stay with them more than with us. So you don't expect that child to come and be subjected into our own tribal language. Now, except, for example, our major languages in Nigeria, where they take it as an intentional policy to teach their language in their schools. But over here, maybe in the South, the minority group, most of us, we don't see the need why our languages should be taught in schools. We are not keen about it. And the minority languages is almost going into what? Extinction. So if we can take it as an intentional policy that languages for our children should also be taught in schools alongside with their first language, I believe it will also help. If we want to promote tribal language, it should not be the duty of the parent alone. I don't have a major role because I must be liberal. I cannot just subject my child. If I want my child to be conversant with my language or my wife's language, then I will look for a school also to put her where that language also be taught. I will restrict her to the kind of friends he or she will make, interact with, that also align with our language. Or such a child will be restricted to the environment where my tribal language is predominantly the spoken language, where he or she can be hearing and adapting to it.
Yes, you are still on the program Men's Angle, reaching you from Edo Broadcasting Service Television. If you are joining us for the first time on this program, it is designed by Edo Broadcasting Service to bring together men to take a look at issues that affect them, which by extension affect the larger society. In today's edition of the program, we are still taking a look at maybe language issue that has to do with cross-tribal and cross-language marriages. That is, a man going to another tribe to get a woman, the other way around. And which language will the child or the children coming from this marriage be able to learn first? Because we know all languages are important, but then there must be priority in anything we do. We are going for our first break. When we return, we continue with this segment of discussion. But before we go, do remember you can watch Edo Broadcasting Service on Star Times channel 113 and on Go TV channel 141. For latest and news and information, be sure to visit and subscribe to Edo Broadcasting Service on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X at EBS Benin. Please stay tuned. This program is designed by Edo Broadcasting Service to bring men together to address issues that affect them and by extension the larger society. By Edo Broadcasting Service to bring men together to address issues that affect them and by extension the larger society. It's good to know you are still there on the program Men's Angle, reaching you from Edo Broadcasting Service Television. We still have in the house a motivational speaker, a minister of the gospel, and at the same time is a public affairs analyst, Hilas Osezua. Yes, inter-tribal marriage, language, and other related issues. Do you think tribal language still has some disadvantages? Because we know there are so many advantages associated with it, because I've had a personal experience. Well, a situation I was in, and I was almost confused. How will I get out of this situation? And I use my language to say, oh God, how will I leave this situation? Not knowing that one of the men closest to me there is from my area. So just some few minutes after, the man called me and said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from so place." He said he had me speak the language. So that was how the man was able to help me out of the situation. Those are some of the advantages we derive from being able to speak your language. Yeah, there are some disadvantages as well.
Yeah.
In this situation, what are some of those things you can share with us?
Yeah, if you look at language, language is as old